Is going to be a review of TNA's Sacrifice 2005. This is part of, I think, TNA's best run. I think this second half of 2005, when we go into No Surrender all the way until the end of the year with Turning Point, it's a magical run. I think for TNA, so many great pay-per-views, getting on Spike TV, the first Bound for Glory. So when we're talking about Sacrifice 2005, the first Sacrifice was actually in August. I actually had this as, one of the top 25 TNA pay-per-views. Interesting thing about this show is it's got some really, really good, first-time ever matchups. Daniels and Aries, first time ever. I think first time ever. And then AJ and Samoa Joe, the first time ever in TNA. The interesting thing about this show is I don't think there's one championship on the line. And you got an ECW driven, tag match in the, the actual main event right here. But yeah, I think it's a really, really good show. I mean, would I say it's like top 10? When I evaluated it last summer, there were a couple of things that kind of, brought the show down for me, but it's still a quality show. It really, really, really is. There's some incredible, matchups on this show. But you could make the argument against it that it shouldn't be anywhere near the top 10. But we're going to go back to August 14th, 2005. This is from the Impact Zone. The pay-per-view buy rate, I'm seeing it did about 10,000 to 15,000. This is before they got on Spike TV. So, the buy rate is what it is. But hey, man, let's get right down to it. The first match of the night, you had Chris Sabin, Shark Boy, and Sonjay Dutt actually taking on Elix Skipper, teaming up with Simon Diamond, the Diamonds in the Rough, and David Young. So, Simon Diamond comes out there, cuts a good promo, talks about how Elix Skipper has kind of gotten lost in the shuffle, while Christopher Daniels is, revolutionizing the X division. Skipper, even after that, monumental bump at Turning Point, that Hurricane Rana off the top of the cage, he's kind of, clueless and just kind of lost. And Simon's basically saying that he's going to lead Elix Skipper back to prominence. So good promo from Simon Diamond. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to really evaluate, Elix Skipper. Like, what's the problem with him? If he's good enough to deliver maybe the bump of the century or the move of the century, why is he in this spot? It's an interesting debate. You could definitely classify Petey Williams in that same, category. He's got a really, really cool move, but how come he's not, respected like a Christopher Daniels or an AJ Styles? But, Sabin, Shark Boy, and Sonjay, they're kind of like, at this time, they're kind of like the students of the X Division. And it was good, man. I thought this was a good opener. Didn't overstay its welcome, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, you got mixed talent in this match. I mean, some people are going to be very negative on Shark Boy. There's going to be a lot of guys out there that just say, yeah, they don't really care about Simon Diamond. But the bottom line is Sabin was the star of the show. Sabin gets to win with a jackknife pin. He busted his ass while he was in there. Sonjay looked good. I thought you had, some decent talent in this match. A good way to start off the show. This is the perfect opener because it gives you something fun and you could still look forward to, the bigger matchups down the show or down the card. All right, next up we have Alex Shelley taking on Shocker. This is actually the third match in the trilogy right here. I think they had wrestled, before this. It might have been at Slammiversary, and then they had another match in the World X Cup tournament, which Shelley won. So this is actually the rubber match right here. I'm seeing a little bit of mixed reaction here. I think Shocker's okay. Watching Shocker, he's like a Mexican dude with bleached blonde hair. He's got some really, really good lucha skill. I think he looked a little bit old here, though. He looked a little bit broken down. Not as mobile as Shelly. So you see there's a little bit of like an age discrepancy between these guys. But For the most part, I thought this was good. I could see why they brought in Shocker. He had a big match against Daniels at Hard Justice. They threw him in this X Cup tournament. He's definitely worthy of it. He brought some international flavor to TNA. I mean, this match against Shelly right here, I think it was good. It just didn't quite hit the mark for me. They did some good stuff out there though. I actually like the finish. It's good. Shocker does like an Oklahoma roll. Shelly blocks it into a headlock and then he gets his foot on the rope. So I actually did like the finish there. So it definitely had its moments. So that's Shelly and Shocker, the third match of the trilogy. Next up, we got Abyss taking on Lance Hoyt. All right, one of the things I'll say this about TNA at this time, some of the video packages here, man, they just didn't really grab me. Whether it's Abyss and Lance Hoyt, I got to say, the stuff that they did with 3 Live Crew and Kip James, I thought it was actually pretty fun, the video package. But the Abyss Lance Hoyt beef and then the Team Canada beef with AMW and the Naturals, it just didn't keep me engaged, during the video package. And you could even make the argument that some of the other ones as well. So I think that's one of the biggest flaws. Like, that's the biggest flaw, I think, that TNA had in 2005. Compared to 2012, when you had guys like Bruce Pritchard coming in and Zahari coming in, they really kind of tweaked things to the point where you have better production values. The mic was, the ring was definitely mic better, just the sound quality. So there's a couple of things in '05 from a visual and a sound standpoint that quite aren't up to par yet. So that's one of the arguments I think against, TNA in 2005 for as good as it was. I still think it's their best year ever. I know some people might disagree. It seems like 2012 is actually gaining some traction as well. But, Abyss and Lance Hoyt, really, really good match right here. Mitchell attacks Lance Hoyt before the match. There's some really, really good dialogue from Mitchell saying, at first it was all business, but Lance Hoyt, you made it personal. And he called Lance Hoyt's fans white trash. Hoyt definitely had like a lot of fans out there. I think I said this at No Surrender, but if you notice in the front row, like there's a lot of Hoyt Mania t-shirts out in the crowd. But hey, man, I think the match is good. I'm not crazy about Lance Hoyt, but I will say he's a good athlete. He actually busted out the Shane McMahon, Van Terminator from coast to coast, and he actually hit Abyss with the chair. So that was pretty impressive. I mean, there were some really, really nice choke slams, good kickouts. It was fluid. For two guys that are near 7 feet, I thought the match was fast-paced. You had a lot of good kickouts. The transition into some of Abyss's black hole slams, especially the ending, came off great. Hoyt actually kicked out of one of the black hole slams. So it was pretty over the top. They got the green light to just deliver, an over-the-top match in under 10 minutes. It was actually one of the better things on the show, so definitely check that out. Next up, we have the 3 Live Crew of Ronda Truth Killings and Konnan taking on Kip James and Monty Brown. We actually have the special referee, BG James. This is the Road Dogg, Jesse James. So, so he's a referee here. He's kind of, pick a side. Does he reunite with Kip James? Billy Gunn, out of a, tribute to, James's father is actually going to change his name to Kip James, leading up to the show. So that was interesting. But the story of the match is, where is BG James going to, stand? Is he going to side with the 3 Live Crew, or is he going to join the former Degeneration X guy that, revolutionized the Attitude Era with? So it's a really interesting situation here. It's the same kind of match from No Surrender. Wasn't crazy about the matchup going into it. It did kind of feel like Monty Brown is just kind of there, like for this whole feud, even though he did some, incredible pounces and just, he's definitely like, I think Monty Brown was a diamond in the rough, looking back on it. But yeah, the match is fun. There was a chair brought into the ring, and BG James actually keeps it away from Kip James for the ending right here, and then Konnan just blasts, Kip James with the chair to end this thing. So yeah, BG James actually does side with the 3 Live Crew, for this particular match. But down the road, Konnan gets kind of fed up with how torn, BG James is with, Kip. And I think eventually, Konnan does turn on BG James down the road. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a forgettable match. I think this storyline is not going to really age well, with a lot of people. But You get the point, though. It was a fun match. I thought Killings looked good. I definitely think it had some fun elements in it. I will say this: Konnan just didn't look, great at this time. For as good as he was on the mic. Okay, Christopher Daniels and Austin Aries. This is actually not for the X Division Championship. So Daniels comes out. This is kind of like an open challenge. So they did this internet, polling. I think on TNAWrestling.com, where you could actually vote someone in. So Austin Aries actually wins the vote by 55%. I think the other guys who were actually in the voting was actually Matt Sydal, Jay Lethal, and Roderick Strong. So Aries dominated the voting. It's no surprise, Aries was ROH champion. He's the one that beat Joe. It was funny. I remember in wrestling, forums at the time, when guys would post a comment in their signature, they would have, all these different graphics. This one guy had Austin Aries, another guy had Samoa Joe. That's the first time I ever heard of Samoa Joe with that Samoa Joe signature. And another guy actually had Austin Aries, the Wrestling Machine. And this is even before they started calling Kurt Angle the Wrestling Machine. So from my recollection, the first one to ever get that nickname was actually Austin Aries. So, Aries had a lot of, hype going into this thing. Daniels was calling Aries Mr. Ring of Honor. He's like, Aries, you might be the darling of the internet, and you might be Mr. Ring of Honor, but it's a whole different story when you go up against Mr. TNA. All right, so there's a couple of things here. My gut feeling is that when Gabe Sapolsky, the booker for Ring of Honor, saw this match, I don't think he was happy. When you look at how well Daniels was booked and overprotected he was during the Summer of Punk, it's almost like, I think after this weekend, you could slowly see Daniels was not used great in Ring of Honor after this weekend, all the way up until Good Times, Great Memories, where he cut the promo, a very, very anti-Ring of Honor promo. And I think it really all started on this show. It's just tough because, look, Daniels goes 60 minutes with Punk. He doesn't put Punk over. It's a 60-minute draw. They overprotect him in the four-way out redemption with the stuff with Joe, with Punk, throwing his foot off the rope. So, the bottom line is Ring of Honor really went over, bent over backwards to really make Daniels look strong. And I just don't think, TNA reciprocated with Aries here. I mean, it's a non-title match. This just kind of felt like a tryout. It felt like a showcase. Surprisingly, this is not as good as Daniels' match with Petey Williams at No Surrender. It's just it just didn't feel as competitive. All right, some of the positives here is Aries looked great. He looked motivated. The missile drop kick came off great. On commentary, they put him over huge. They talked about how he trained in Minnesota, the same guys that trained the Legion of Doom. Very, very Minnesota, based show right here, especially with the next match. But, in terms of the way this was laid out, I think it was good. You definitely did see some good stuff. Daniels did the best he could, to put over Aries' moveset. Aries actually dodges the best moonsault ever. He does hit a 450. Daniels gets his foot on the rope to avoid getting pinned by the 450. Daniels hits a vicious looking STO. The Angel Wings just kind of comes out of nowhere, and that's pretty much it. Daniels wins convincingly. Kind of another, disappointing Daniels and Aries match. This is the first match that they had. The other big match that they had that kind of left me cold as well was that Glory by Honor 10. And if you remember in that match, I think Aries was leaving Ring of Honor. So that was kind of cut short as well. That kind of felt very similar to this. I think if you want to find their most underrated match, I think you have to go to like Irresistible Forces in Chicago, 2006. I remember that being a little bit better, but I like the combination of Daniels and Aries. I like the fact that Aries kind of got like this hot young stud on the Indies presentation, but still, I think it could have been better. And that's one of the weird things about this show. There's no championships on the line. But hey, if you want to put a positive spin on this, I think, you want to make Daniels look strong so he could, go out there on commentary for the World X Cup match and put over that match. So, Daniels was going to play a huge role in that match. But, it's pretty cool, though. The first time ever you get Daniels and Aries, it had a TNA versus ROH type of feel to it. So I like that about the match. But, my gut feeling is that I just don't think Gabe could have been thrilled, by seeing this match. Especially, it's hard, and plus, it's hard for me to buy into the finish, too. You just saw Aries go 30 minutes with Punk in that war at Death Before Dishonor 3, and then he's going to lose to Daniels in 10 minutes, and the X Division title's not even on the line. So, all right, next up we have Jerry Lynn taking on Sean Waltman. This gets a lot more time than the previous match. So, like I was saying, this had a Minnesota-based history to it, Jerry Lynn and Sean Waltman. And, Aries was born in Milwaukee, but he actually trained in Minnesota. It was cool, man. They actually showed Jerry Lynn and X-Pac, some of the independent wrestling matches in Minnesota before, Sean Waltman even made it to the WWF. So I thought that was cool. The storyline here is that Jerry Lynn was saying that, ever since you made it to the big time, to the WWF, I never heard from you. Why is that? And then Sean Waltman was just saying, I work 300 days a year. He's like, you never had to do that. So it was a pretty cool storyline here. Jerry Lynn, this is his first match back. If anyone has the Best of the X Division Volume 1, Jerry Lynn actually buried Juventud Guerrera on that DVD. He basically said that, Juvi is very, very selfish, and, he cares more about, getting himself over than protecting his opponent. And that's why he ended up tearing his rotator cuff. So it's really Jerry's first match back. So he's selling the shit out of his shoulder here. Waltman goes to work on the shoulder. So Jerry's he basically has to use his feet, as a weapon here to, maneuver Sean Waltman. So tons of leg scissors, tons of nice roll throughs from Jerry Lynn. Waltman did some really, really good arm drags here. You get to see the educated feet. I think the match is really, really good. You had some good stuff here. Jerry's able to defeat Waltman by rolling him up. I mean, there was some really, really, just good fundamental action here, and it didn't really feel like, your typical X Division spot fest at the time. I think that's why this was definitely credited for being a breath of fresh air, for that time. What the most memorable thing is the aftermath. It looked like they were going to hug each other. The two guys that used to know each other in Minnesota that came up together. Then all of a sudden, Waltman just takes, Lynn's arm, brings it down, and just rams his shoulder into the mat. So you get Waltman just attacking Jerry Lynn right there. So it was good stuff there. Great return for Jerry. I don't think he got to see much of either guy throughout the rest of 2005, though. So that's a little bit disappointing. Okay, moving on to the tag division match. All right, so once again, the tag titles are not on the line here. So you have Team Canada, the whole stable out there, taking on America's Most Wanted and the Naturals. The Naturals are actually the tag team champions. So, the Naturals are putting their differences aside with AMW to just, teach Team Canada a lesson. Team Canada has been cheating, and, the Scott D'Amore has been getting involved. The Canadian flag, you see a whole bunch of, just guys being irritated by Team Canada. So they want to take care of business first, and then, the tag titles are secondary here for AMW. So it's tough to really buy into this. I thought it was good, though. I think it's a good little fun match, a nice little showcase from Team Canada. You get to see everybody, do their thing here. You get to see, guys like A1 save, guys from getting pinned. You get to see good fundamentals from Bobby Roode. Eric Young took some big bumps here. I think it was okay. Chris Harris did a big crossbody where he took everybody out. It just felt like way too much talent, and it didn't really get that much time. The story of the match is that the Naturals just didn't get along with AMW. There was some controversy about the finish. The finish actually came off great. I mean, there was a huge, triple power bomb off the top rope, I believe from James Storm. The problem is Chase Stevens took the brunt of it, and that ended up costing them the match. So Team Canada does go over. Bobby Roode gets the, schoolboy victory there after some of the bickering, but it was fun. A lot of people love the tag division in TNA in 2005. I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. This is pretty much it. These are, all the tag teams are pretty much here. Team Canada, then you got the Naturals, and then you got AMW. So you saw different variations, throughout all of 2005. But it's a solid tag team division. I think, most people would say, they started watching, TNA because of the X division. And then slowly but surely, it's like, you started to get into everything. You got into some of the stuff that Jarrett was doing with the NWA title. And then, you have the tag division if you like tag team wrestling. And then you got the, you got the ex-WWE guys with the 3 Live crew. And then you got the hardcore stuff with the Biz. So I think that's one of the things. That's one of the selling points for TNA in 2005 is that, we're more than just the X division. We got something for everybody. But we're going to move on to the X division Super X Cup final. We got Samoa Joe taking on AJ Styles. First time ever in TNA. Definitely the match of the night. It does seem like a lot of people were disappointed in the Daniels interference. So Daniels is actually on commentary. And he's got a suit on. He's doing a really, really good job, too, of putting over the X Division, putting over himself. But as the match progressed, though, he said some insightful things about Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. Both guys have wrestled 1 hour draws. Like, who does this style of match favor? What type of match should Joe wrestle if he wants to defeat AJ? So you saw Daniels do some good stuff on commentary, but he does interfere. He plays into the finish. The way this match was going, it probably would have been like, one of the best TNA, maybe the TNA match of the year, had it just gone a little bit more longer, maybe 10 more minutes, whatever the case may be. So, but at the time, you didn't know that this was going to lead to Unbreakable. So I think the match has aged extremely well because without the Daniels interference, it doesn't really set up the triple threat at Unbreakable. Little did you know at the time, this is setting up the best match in TNA history. But, on to Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, though. There's something about this combination at the time that just, blows away, some of their other matches from other promotions. They've wrestled a lot. They wrestled in PWG at the musical, which is on PWG Sells Out. I thought that was good, but it's just not this match. Even the ROH matches are just not as good. You go back to War of the Wire. In 2003, Daniels actually said that he was in attendance for, both the PWG match and the War of the Wire match. They actually wrestled at a Time to Man Up, which is actually AJ's last ROH match, at least for a while. They wrestled in the main event of that show. That clearly just wasn't as good. It felt like a watered down TNA house show. And then they actually wrestled in WWE. They wrestled at SummerSlam 2018, which I just watched. And yeah, it's just a little bit different, very, very different. That match was a little bit long and just very different styles, a different mix at that time. I just don't think the WWE stuff was that memorable. I had to rewatch it just to even remember, how good it was. Even some of the TNA stuff that they did later on, whether it be Sacrifice 2007 or Against All Odds 2010. It was just lacking the precision and the oomph that the 2005 stuff had. It was great stuff. You could see AJ here just very, very athletic, but at the same time strong. He's able to get Samoa Joe off of his feet. It looked great. He busted out the torture rack. He was able to suplex Joe. What I love about this Sacrifice match is it's not their best match. The Turning Point match, it gave you the extra couple minutes and it gave you the clean finish. So the Turning Point match is going to get more love than this. I definitely think it's the better match, but still, there were moments here where there was some stiff holy shit moments here that the Turning Point match did not have. The palm strike sequence with Joe slapping the taste out of his mouth and AJ slaps back and then, AJ kind of ends it with just a violent looking insecurity to kill Joe's momentum. I thought that came off great. There's a sequence here where Joe just kind of kicks AJ into the abyss out of the ring. It just looked crazy. And Daniels was great, though. For as much criticism as Daniels is getting with the interference, if you take him away from the match, though, it was definitely missing something, because Daniels did have some good facial expressions here, and I think he just the way he looked, just the way he talked, he definitely brought some credibility, I think, to the X division. So he does interfere, when it looks like AJ's about to win this match. He goes like, "Hold on, Mike. Today I gotta go do something." So he gets into the ring. AJ clotheslines him out of the ring. It looks like he's going to attack Joe too. It looks like he's going to attack both guys, but he's kind of scared of Joe. And but yeah, it does kind of continue the Joe Daniels beef from Ring of Honor. But at the same time, Joe takes advantage of Daniels actually getting physical, hits him with the muscle buster, and he actually chokes AJ out. AJ actually does tap. He doesn't just pass out. He taps for real. So a huge match for Joe. I think at that time, for Joe to get the victory over AJ, it was just a sign that Joe was going to be a major player. For him to get a win over Sonjay at Slammiversary, it was like, all right, Joe is here. But, for him to get the green light against Sabin to really deliver, I think it was another step in the right direction. But to get the victory over AJ, it's almost like, Joe is going to be, not just another guy, but he might be the face of the company. So it was huge. I think it was a big summer for Joe. If you look at where Joe was, at the beginning of the summer to the end of the summer, it's just like, holy shit, this might be something special. Because I think there was a lot of people that were hesitant of Joe going to WWE or even TNA at the time. But awesome match, definitely the match of the night. For 15 minutes, it was incredible. One of the best matches I think I've ever seen that was, about 15 minutes. I mean, they packed in a lot of action. This is a 15-minute match that reached the 4.5-star level, in my opinion. All right, so we have a tag team match right here. We got Jarrett and Rhino taking on Raven and Sabu. So Jeff Jarrett joins ECW, kind of feels like, for a hot second. But the bottom line is here, if Jarrett scored the pinfall on Raven, he earned an NWA championship match. However, if Raven pinned Jarrett, then Jarrett would not receive a title match for an entire year. So you see what's coming here. Obviously, Jarrett's team is going to go over. Throughout this whole show, Jarrett is selling the idea that he's paranoid about TNA going to Spike TV. He's calling for a Black Wednesday. He's paranoid that people are going to get fired and that jobs are not secure. Daniels even countered by saying that nobody can replace the fallen angel Christopher Daniels, so he's not worried. But for some reason, Jarrett's worried. It's funny. Jarrett would take these things, even going back to the first show, the whole thing with the NWA committee, demanding that the champion be crowned in a battle royal. Jarrett acted like he wasn't cool with it. And even the move to Spike TV, Jarrett plays off it as a heel, just saying that he's not happy about it. He refers to them as TNA management, that TNA management is, going to push all these other guys over him. And, and I got to bring it up now, man. The one guy I think Jarrett could have done a better job of, molding what was Austin Aries. I think for whatever reason, there seemed to be some sort of animosity between Jarrett and Aries. You could even see it on this show as well, with Jarrett kind of, pointing at Austin Aries as a nobody and saying that, we don't know who he is, but TNA management knows who he is. So you got that little beef. It even started here on Aries' first show. You could see it, time and time again on Ring of Honor. You got to see Aries actually mocking Jarrett by saying, "I got stroke," and then he would do the stroke or the strut. But hey, man, let's get right down to it. We got Jeff Jarrett and Rhino taking on Raven and Sabu. So Raven and Sabu reunite here. Raven cut some really, really good promos on Jeff. Jarrett and Rhino actually reunited at No Surrender, where Rhino actually did take out Raven. So yeah, man, it's a really, really good match here. They only go about 16 minutes, but Lots of good action, lots of crazy interference from Abyss, and Jeff Hardy even appears on this show. They were actually saying that if Jeff Hardy didn't appear, that he was actually going to get fired, but he did appear. Everybody went crazy, but I got to give them credit, man. Sabu looked really, really good. So I think this is Sabu's TNA debut. He looked awesome. Everybody here looked good. Jarrett blended in well with them. He took some nasty looking chest passes with the steel chair. He got bloody. Rhino just was really, really fresh. There are moments here where when you bring Rhino in, fresh, and you package him as a threat, just like they did in WWE before WrestleMania 17. I think Rhino came in with a lot of juice. Same thing with Raven. I think Raven looked good here. Obviously I don't think Raven was in, tip-top shape, but just the way he's able to execute a hot tag with his punches and just his whole routine. I think Raven actually had a good showing here. Sabu did a lot of crazy stuff out there. He didn't botch one thing. Abyss actually came out to attack Sabu. So you get the, first interactions between Abyss and Sabu where, Abyss just chokeslammed the crap out of Sabu. But yeah, man, very well laid out, very chaotic. I mean, you did get a little bit of the overbooking with Jeff Hardy coming out, but I don't think it really took away from the match too much. The ending is sick as hell. Rhino actually spears Raven through a vertical table to get the pinfall. The show goes off the air with Jarrett just going up to Rhino, and he's like, Rhino, I was supposed to get the win. Rhino, I was supposed to get the win. So that's how it ends right there. So little do we know, Rhino is going to be the biggest thorn in Jarrett's side and eventually take the title away from him at Bound for Glory. But as of right now, Rhino will get the title shot at Unbreakable against Raven. He comes up short. But Jarrett, I believe Jarrett gets the title shot the first night of Spike TV where he does take the belt from Raven. That's what I remember. That's exactly how it happened right there. But yeah, good little tag match to had. A nice little, stipulation right here. It definitely felt like an important match. I think more than anything, when you look back at Sacrifice 2005, it's a good show considering that there's no championship on the line. I mean, what it really does, it really kind of sets the tone for the fall, for Unbreakable, for Spike TV, for Bound for Glory. It did a really, really good job of that. So you get some good stuff on the show. I would definitely say this is one of TNA's best pay-per-views. It's really, really damn good. You could make the argument against it, but hey, I enjoyed the show. Is it the best Sacrifice ever? I would probably say no. I think Sacrifice 2007 is better. And I know this is not in the traditional spot that Sacrifice is in, but I would definitely say that Sacrifice, I think unintentionally ended up being one of TNA's more consistent line of pay-per-views because they didn't really try to overthink Sacrifice with, throwing guys in cage matches and, throwing guys in, King of the Mountain matches. So I think that's why the cards are pretty well, pretty much had a lot of depth to them, if that makes any sense. So I'll just end it right there, guys. That's TNA Sacrifice 2005. And I'm out. I'll actually be back with a Hard Justice review tomorrow night. Hard Justice 2007, very, very controversial. We'll see how that comes out, but I'll just end it right there. Sacrifice 2005. Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels and Austin Aries, Jerry Lynn and Sean Waltman. You get an ECW driven main event. I think it's a damn good show. Solid stuff. There are some weak links. I'm not crazy about the 8-man tag match. I think that kind of felt like a mess. And I just get the feeling a lot of people hate anything to do with the 3 Live Crew and Kip James stuff. But it wasn't bad. It was entertaining. So I'll just end it right there.